agenda with item 1, which is public comment on agenda-related items. If you have something you'd wish to comment on, as you come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and keep your comments to 5 minutes. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Michelle Juvance, and my address is 1335 Long Hollow Pike. I'm speaking on item 2, Kensington Downs, Phase 5, and I'm here to put a few things on the record. The last time this FMDP was in front of you was 1 year ago at the October 7, 2024 Planning Commission work session. At the time, I spoke to you, as did my neighbor and my husband. We stated that the FMDP in front of you last year was not consistent with the PMDP and was not consistent with what had been promised to us in 2017 and 2018 by the developer and by CSDG. I want to be sure to put on the record that last year at the meeting, after we spelled out the specific things that were promised to us and were changed, I expected you to actually take what I said seriously and to require the developer to keep their promises to us. Instead, the vice chairman, who was running the meeting that night, completely brushed aside what we had said and made comments essentially that the new plans that the developer had presented were fine. The vice chairman completely disregarded us, and the other planning commissioners followed his lead. It was clear that the developer was going to get their rubber stamp from the Planning Commission, even though all the agreements and promises that had been made to us 8 years ago had been erased. Because of the Planning Commissioners' dismissive treatment of us and preferential treatment toward CSDG and toward the developer, we hired a lawyer to represent our interests. Let me say that again. We as citizens had to spend money and hire lawyers because of the Planning Commissioner's blatant disregard of the truth and preferential treatment towards CSDG and the developer. I have a letter that our lawyer sent last year, and I think some of you probably haven't seen it, so I'll pass it around when I'm done here. I think you should see it. And I would also like to put on the record that there are 3 of you that recuse yourselves every month on items for financial conflicts of interest. You not only rub elbows with CSDG and other engineering firms, you are actually doing business with them. You are making a living off of the things you're voting on, and this looks shady. And from my experience last year of having to hire lawyers just to get you to do the right thing, it is also affecting your voting decisions. Mr. Chairman, I am asking you to recuse yourself from this item number 2 and from anything else represented by CSDG, as you are currently working with them on your Highway 25 townhouse development. And I'd like to call on the mayor to replace the chairman, the vice chairman, and the secretary, as these 3 planning commission members are making a living from things they vote on regularly, and that's not how it should be done. Some of the details on tonight's FMDP, even though it's substantially better than what was presented last year, when I looked this morning at the cross-section of the berm that we were supposed to, we were promised a minimum 36-inch berm. It looks like it's 2.5 feet. So 2.5 feet is not 3 feet. I don't know what else is different. I haven't noticed anything else, but that is something that I expect you to do the right thing about. And I'll just pass this around for anybody who wants to look at it. Thanks.
Thank you, ma'am.
Evening, Pascal Jovins, 1335 Long Hollow Pike. Just a quick question on the comprehensive plan amendment. I'm wondering how an applicant who has nothing to do yet with the city can request legally an amendment to Plan Gallatin. His property is not in a city yet. It's still going through process of being annexed. If we do that, that means anybody can come tomorrow and ask for an amendment on a Plan Gallatin. Somebody from Chicago or for Los Angeles gonna come and say, hey, why don't we change Plan Gallatin? That should not be, I don't know how we can do that legally. That's my first mention on that. And my second mention is if it's there to be changed, because the applicant told us he wanted to do industrial, and because on the new zoning code we have actually a new zoning was just industrial, why we use that opportunity, because it's in front of you now, to actually create an industrial base on the Plan Gallatin, because it's not there. There is nothing there. My main concern by changing how it is that the applicant can tomorrow come back to us and decide to change the industrial to high density. And if we just change a Plan Gallatin like that, he's going to be able to do that. So we know that with the new ZOCO, we're going to have industrial block. Why don't you guys talk about that, and instead of going to general urban and create really quickly an industrial character area we can add in a Plan Gallatin, because I think that's missing somewhere. We just have 4 different staff who doesn't meet industrial, so that should be pretty easy to do in a couple of sessions and make sure that base industrial is there, so when we switch to the new code, we actually don't have to come back there to change the Plan Gallatin. That's just an idea. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, everybody. Rosemary Bates, Gallatin Economic Development Agency, 132 West Main Street, Gallatin, Tennessee. I am here to encourage you to look favorably on changing the comp plan in this area. And down the road, if you want to look at creating an industrial character area, would certainly love to help you define that and how you would implement that. My predecessor did not he did not participate a great deal in how you were creating the character area mapping. So if I had been here, well, I was here then, but I would have encouraged you to consider this area a much broader industrial area because of all the infrastructure that is already there. And in my opinion, yes, industrial construction can seem a little strong or intense, but once you have that industry in place, the impact on the neighbors, whether they remain a farm or the Roundtree residences, and there are lots of plans to protect them if you end up doing this, ultimately the industry itself has a lot less impact on a lot of our infrastructure, schools, and those sorts of things. So please consider this favorably. And again, if you feel like you need to create a character area for industrial, please let me know, and I'm happy to participate in that. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else wishing to speak under public comment on agenda-related items? All right, seeing no one indicating they wish to speak, close the public comment, and we'll move on to the agenda item 2, Kensington Downs Phase 5, Final Master Development Plan.
Good evening, Kimberly Atlee, staff planner. This is a request for the owner. Applicant is requesting final approval for the master plan development for Kensington Down Phase 5. It's 26 single-family lots. It's on 6.82 acres. It's zoned R8 PRD. It's that last portion of a larger subdivision that's being developed. Tonight, we're coming back to you in regards to a couple of items. This, you may remember, came in last year about this time. We had to work on the buffer, some swells, some berm, landscaping. So they have come back with some new information. I'll get you to where you need. Okay, everything on the east side has, it will be existing tree lines, or keeping existing tree lines, preserving that on the east side. Then they're keeping the street landscaping. And then everything on the west side and the north, they've enhanced the buffer yard. And then we're talking about the west swell and the east swell. They are on here. We have requested for the north swell detailed information. Tonight, I think engineer needs, they're going to be talking about the traffic analysis and possibly the curb cut and some more information on the berm.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can chime in. Just a couple of things that we were focused on with this review was, as you all know, when we asked for streets to be stubbed out that are going to connect to future properties, we always like to have those go as close as practical to the boundary, just so that when the next person comes in to connect to that, we won't have to worry about, you know, we're having to build 50 more feet or 100 more feet to make this connection. And so just so that everyone's doing their part and that connection can be made without too much worry. And then probably the bigger thing is the development through the traffic impact study on the front end was required to put a traffic signal in if it met warrants at Grandstand Boulevard and Greenlee Boulevard. We've asked for them to do a traffic impact or a traffic signal warrant analysis. We're not confident that this will meet warrants, but we feel like we need to at least get the signal warrant analysis completed. And then if it doesn't meet warrants, we get to the end of this, they're 100% built out, still doesn't meet warrants. We feel like it's appropriate to have some kind of contribution to go towards the construction of this in the future. We had an item on the agenda tonight that would see an extension of Grandstand Boulevard, and so we know that this is the Bison Trail extension that would connect to this, and at some point in time, we feel like a traffic signal will show up there. So want to make sure everybody is paying their fair share as they come along. So those are our main things.
Thanks, Nick. Do we have a representative for the applicant here?
Luke Talley with CSDG, and we're generally okay with all comments. Happy to talk a little bit more on the road stub outs. I guess from a year or so ago when this first came through, we met with planning and engineering separately and kind of talked about, you know, keeping those enhanced buffers on the north and east side. So we came together as a team to kind of pull those back and maintain as much buffer as we could. So happy to amend as needed. I know there's just some back and forth that needs to be done with staff on that one.
And you know, I wasn't at the meeting when this was here a year ago, but you know, it sounds like there were some agreements that were made with the adjacent property owners for these buffers. So, are you guys complying with that, with what the owner, you know, they all agreed to? I mean, I don't.
Yes, if the staff would like to address that too. We feel like we've met the conditions that they've, I guess we met about after last year's meeting. There were some meetings outside the work session that took place too that kind of further enhanced these buffers, so.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to make sure, but if there was an agreement made with the adjacent property owners, then, you know, from the owner or from the developer, it needs to, you know, needs to be compliant with that. So I'm gonna be looking for that at the voting meeting, that whatever agreements were reached, that, the promises that were made are getting kept.
We'll make sure the exhibits that were approved with the PMDP are included as attachments for you guys
Okay.
at the voting meeting.
Yeah.
So it's clear.
Yeah, I mean, if the PMDP showed a buffer and it showed things, then that was the agreement at PMDP. We need to make sure all this matches.
Yeah.
And look, obviously, if there's a reason something can't match, explain what it is, but I want to make sure we're following through on what we originally promised people.
Completely agree.
So, any other questions?
No, I think you covered it.
And I guess, and to that point, where the road stub can't go to the property lines, I imagine that's part of pulling it back, is for these enhanced buffers. If you put the road stub all the way through, it kills that part of the buffer. Is that?
Exactly. So that's where I guess some conversation can be had outside this meeting if we need. We thought we were meeting a planning condition by doing that, but I think engineering still wants the road to go there. So I think there were other people in the meetings last year too that may no longer work with engineering, so.
Gotcha. Was there a provision, if the road bed doesn't extend all the way property line, I'm assuming the right-of-way, the easements, all those things exist, just becomes a question of who pays to build the last 50, 60 feet, if it ever comes to fruition, is that?
Yeah, I think the challenge with building berm, landscaping, ditches that may go across this future right-of-way or will be a right-of-way is if it does get extended,
Yeah.
you then have to cut all that stuff back, and you're going to get off the right-of-way.
Yeah.
You probably are going to get onto private property, but you're certainly going to get onto this HOA property. So that's, if that's the direction that the Planning Commission wants to go with allowing the berm to be there, we need to make sure that we protect the ability to extend, or we're just effectively killing the extension.
Well, yeah, and I don't want to kill the ability for it to extend in the future if everything were to change for some reason in the future. But to your point, if there's an easement or allowance taken to an effect, with making sure that the ability to make it connect in the future doesn't go away because of the need to get into HOA property or something. So I'm sure that can be dealt with some language or some easements on the plat, if that's the direction that it ultimately winds up. But I definitely want to see the ability for it to someday connect if ownership changes and different things, but also understand the agreements made to get this buffer in, that is a problem, so. Yeah. Anybody else have any other comments, feedback? I need a pretty good idea of what we're gonna be looking for. All right, thank you, sir. Okay, item 3, Myers Hill rezoning with preliminary master development plan.
Yes, the owner and applicant are requesting to zone 77.55 acres to the R8 PRD Medium Density Residential Planned Residential District. This is for 190 single-family lots. You guys have seen this a couple times. They have done some reworking to better coordinate with the fact that they are next to the park property, providing better park access. They have added a roundabout to accommodate some of that potential traffic going from the park and also down to Hicks Lane. There is still a note on the plan about improvements to Hicks Lane, but we always want further clarification to make sure it's understood that those improvements would need to go from the east side of the property all the way to Dobbins Pike. That's kind of imperative for that Hicks Lane access. Access for this property has been the main issue from the beginning. They have also limited the stream crossings to 2, so there's a couple cul-de-sacs that are a result of that, and they are planning around a cell tower easement as well as a gas line easement and any kind of stream buffers. We've done some additional comments about making sure we're providing quality open space in here, not just stream buffers, not just easements, although they are well meeting their requirement even without the cell tower easement being included. They have also included architecture for us. They do indicate that they're going to do 70% brick on all facades with this architecture. And also they provided an exhibit showing the potential city park connection in their packet for discussion purposes. And I believe the applicant is here tonight for further discussion.
All right, thank you. I have a representative for the applicant.
Jim Harrison, CSDG, just wanted to
first off, thank Jillian for reviewing all that. The biggest change that you see on this plan from when we had it last time up here was we reconfigured the central roads with the roundabout, essentially creating that secondary park access. That took some time to coordinate those things. Probably the best way to see this, you could see the roundabout and the central drive that goes out to the west on Dobbins Pike, but there's a drive that goes to the south. Jillian, is it possible to move back to that overall view? Yes. So that one, you can see the roundabout in the center of the development. You can see how it relates to the park over on the right-hand side or the east side. But what this does, we've coordinated with the school. There's school property and there's city property on the south side, and we've agreed as part of this to dedicate right-of-way and do some things that are associated with that to allow for that access, that secondary access to extend down to Albert Gallatin, which is a major arterial, but also reconfigure the internal drives to go out to the west. So it creates not just a secondary access, it creates a secondary access with two legs off of it that could go either south or west. That was the biggest change. One of the things we will do as part of this is we provided some information about open space, but I wanted to mention this. Jillian, if you could switch it back to the one that's got the green. There you go. Yeah. So I wanted to talk through this a little bit. We have provided usable open space on this. We don't really have it labeled up quite like it should be. One of the things we will have is we're going to have two play lawns, as I would call it. They're more centrally located and more on the southwest side of the site. And then two play fields that are more on the eastern side of the site. And those are in common open spaces. The other thing I'll point out that the sidewalks that are there are going to be walking close to mature tree stands and positive things like that. So it's going to be a very walkable community with preserved areas. We have enlarged the area a little bit around the cemetery and then enlarged the area on the west side, which is up facing Dobbins Pike, to create more of a natural transition into the project. So all those things we're confident will bring a better community, a more walkable community, and also a community that presents good activities for the families that live there in those new homes. We just want to say thank you to many people here at the city and others that have helped cooperate and kind of work alongside us to pull those things together. We have agreed to pave as part of this Hicks Lane. The timing of that, we'll square away the timing of that on the resubmittal. Some of that kind of connects up to the language that we've got down to the south with the right-of-way dedication as well. So we're prepared to make those commitments and do those things as part of a condition of the plan. So just here to answer any questions.
But, when this came through originally and it failed, quite frankly, I think the open space and the Hicks Lane were the two things we talked about the most. So are you saying you have a path to widening and improving Hicks Lane all the way to Dobbins Pike now?
Yeah, Hicks Lane is in a very different condition from what it was back when we brought it through the very first time, back, I think, 2.5 years ago or something like that. It was a couple years ago. Since then, the road department has widened out part of it and flattened out a crest curve that was in it. And so it's much wider. There's gravel out there right now, so it's mostly a paving operation. It's a little bit of maybe a foot and a half or so in a place or two. But we've gone out and measured it and double-checked it. So Hicks Lane is in a very different condition. So that's part of the conditions of the approval for this. But you'll also have a south route that will be in right-of-way going out to Albert Gallatin as well. So really, it's got a couple of different versions of redundant access once it's all said and done. But that overlaps. We wanted to make sure, and the reason we deferred it last time is because what we were hearing was we needed to do some significant things to provide for the secondary access for the park. And that gave us time to change those things and adjust those things. And wanted to make sure we had that right so that it was functional for the future secondary park access as well.
And the last thing I've got on it is kind of talking about open space. You know, a couple of meetings ago, when we were having the discussion about putting a pause on rezonings, you know, one of the things I mentioned was whether we did that or it didn't ultimately go through is trying to look at the direction that the city and the planning commission's going with the new zoning ordinance and looking at projects that are coming through asking for rezoning in the process. So just, are they at least trying to get to the intent and the vision? I mean, you know, we've put out the direction we want to see the city go in, and open space is a big piece of that. So I'd like you to take a look at the open spaces and kind of the intent. I know it's not codified into ordinance yet, but with the new zoning ordinance, the quality of open space and show us how this is going in that intent. That's something I'm interested in.
And what I verbally kind of went through real quick, we'll make sure that's part of the document and that's codified within the document. We do have 43% open space. One of the play fields actually overlaps the cell tower easement and some of those things. It's very good a way to overlap the uses, but that's only one of the open spaces. We want to make functional use of everything that we can on the site to make the community better. So,
Those are the comments I had. Does anyone else have any feedback or comments for the applicant?
I appreciate the working on the connection to both the school property and the park.
All right, Lewis, has any additional feedback? Thank you for your time.
thank you.
Okay. Item 4 is the Frank property annexation. I'm going to recuse myself from that item because I have a personal interest in it and ask Mr. Pereira if he wouldn't mind taking that item for us.
Item number 4, the Frank property annexation plan of service. Which staff member is presenting that?
Yes, I am. The owner and applicant are requesting annexation of about 5.09 acres. This property is south of Highway 25 and east of Highway 109. This is one of the last little gaps in this area of the city that is not actually within city limits. So the annexation of this would create the consistency along the street for services and things of that nature. This item did go as a petition to city council, so they have completed that step and gotten the okay to apply and come before this board before this would go back to city council. This would include not just the annexation, but the plan of service. And there is not a plan or a zoning shown at this time. Thank you.
We have a representative for the applicant present.
Thank you, Mr. Purrier. Cal Gentry, representative for the applicant. Just here to answer any questions, just bringing this last little piece in the area into the city.
I'll open it to questions. I'll just lead by asking, is the R15 tract immediately to the west of this already annexed? Is this the last piece not to be annexed? Or?
This is the last one.
Questions?
You just asked my question. I wanted to confirm this is the last piece. Yeah.
Any other questions for the applicant? Seeing none, we'll see you back in a few weeks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Back to you.
All right, thank you, sir. Item 5 is Gregory Roundtree Comprehensive Plan Amendment.
Yes, so this property is located on both sides of Roundtree. It's about 325 acres. This area is going through city council right now for consideration of annexation. This came before Planning Commission last month. And it is proposed for industrial development, even though there's no zoning or plan attached to that, but that is the intent of this annexation. With that, our comprehensive plan in Plan Gallatin and our character area have this land up here shown as suburban and rural. These are not very compatible with an industrial use, particularly the rural character area. And the character areas really do lean more towards residential guidance rather than commercial industrial guidance. So not just with this map, but also the sub areas, there's two parts of this amendment that they're requesting. So the first part would be to change that northern area from rural suburban to general urban. Most of the rest of the industrial area is general urban, so that was the thought process as to why that would make sense. It is adjacent to it, with the property to the south in our industrial park also being general urban. But to go along with that, we would also anticipate that this number 4 sub area be extended onto this property. That area is the Gallatin Gateway Industrial Center sub area, which would prep it for the industrial development that's intended to go here. So this, because of how the character map set up, the character map actually extends to our urban growth boundary. That's why you can consider this, even though property is not in the city. You could have anyone within our urban growth boundary. We could consider amendments through that whole area. So it's not in the city yet, but that's why we can look at this. You just have to do this step before we would rezone the property. So this is an anticipation of that. You could even do it at the same time as rezoning it if you wanted to, which we've seen before. And we are here for any additional questions you guys have.
I guess, too, when I had my call with staff before the meeting this morning, one of the questions, we brought up the fact that we didn't create a character area for the industrial, just, similar to what Rosemary had mentioned. So I guess my question for staff would be, I don't know that I'm comfortable changing this to a general urban residential type use. I'd be much more comfortable doing it at the same time we're doing the zoning, so we know exactly what's going in there. But is it possible to create, and not, instead of just saying, okay, it's general urban, how long does it take us to create an overlay for an industrial use to have better clarity that that's the intent? So I do think that's a valid concern. I mean, because, we're changing the intent of an area that, several years ago we put as, residential, low density. I think we all understand that the intention is for it to be industrial, but, is it possible just to amend the plan to add the industrial overlay and make that on this property? Does that work?
I don't think it runs as fast as what this potentially would be. The concern that I would have, I guess, is that you'd have to run it through a public process of trying to ask the public, hey, what do you want to, where else do we want on this character area map that should be considered? If we're creating it, are we just creating it for this one project? Or are we creating it so that it can be applied in different areas? And I don't know that it's a quick process to go through all that public input to determine where that is. This is the reason why Plain Gallatin took many, many months, even years to get through some of that type of process. So I do agree. I think it's important to have another look at our character area map and how we determine what those land uses are. But I do think that that's maybe a part of a bigger project that we do.
I agree. I mentioned it early in the process with the ZOCO process that once the zoning ordinance gets done, these character maps are going to have to be re-looked at, now that we have a new ordinance. But at this point, I ask if we have an representative for the applicant with us. But those are my just quick questions before we got to the applicant.
Hey, good evening. It's Zach Elliott with Greenland Design. Just here to answer any questions y'all might have on this.
Zach, I guess my question, staff just said, the change of the plan could be done concurrently with the rezoning, right?
Yes, you could do this the same time as the rezoning.
Okay. Do you guys have any problem just doing all this at the same time? I think you may have an easier path, quite frankly.
Yeah, I definitely understand the logic there. I think we'd want to just, consult with, amongst ourselves and kind of make sure there wasn't a sort of a rationale, like you're saying, the timelines on these things, you know. I think there may have been a rationale to try to go ahead and get out in front of putting this in the comprehensive plan first, since that's got a longer lead time. When you speak to sort of, I think, the tailoring it to a specific project, I don't think that is necessarily the idea. I think the idea is making this amenable to industrial uses, but it's not. I don't.
Yeah, and I'm not pushing, but I think the industrial use is a much better use for that property than residential. The road networks on that side of
Yeah.
Gallatin can't handle that being developed
And it's
that way.
and it's contiguous. It would, you know, now that we've expanded out with the meta development, you have a portion at the southwest that is that would be a contiguous expansion of the industrial zone. So, or not zone, excuse me, but.
I understand. But I guess that might be
Area.
something to look at and talk with staff. If asking for the change to Plain Gallatin concurrent with the zoning that puts the industrial use on it,
Sure.
I'd be much more comfortable with that.
Okay.
Because it gives some assurances that the intent really is the industrial.
Yes.
And if it, you know, I don't think it slows your project down, but that'd be something just to talk about.
Okay.
So, and then we
Yeah.
can continue a conversation about the overall character area maps and industrial, and cleaning some of that up once we get the new zoning ordinance done. But does anybody else have any questions or? Yeah.
Ben Allen, City Attorney. I just wanted to bring up something really fast. It can be done at the same time. However, rezoning has to be consistent with a comprehensive plan. So just we need to be sure that at whatever night that happens, a comp plan gets voted on to be amended, and then.
It'd have to be two separate items.
Yeah, two separate items, but
Yeah.
to be safe, we need to make sure the comp plan becomes earlier in the meeting.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure that that's clear up there.
That makes sense. I just think it's a lot clearer when we have a zoning request with a plan for the industrial use at the same time, so there's clarity on what's being asked for.
This is also already underway. The annexation process is
Yeah.
already in rolling for this. So.
I'll also just comment too, we did consider the question about, you know, general urban having, you know, a potential for 15 dwelling units per acre. And we felt like it was okay in this instance, mainly because, number one, you have the sub-area map that goes along with that. But also, if you compare our other industrial areas, most of that area is all general urban in nature. So, and then the third thing is that even if general urban is what the character area map shows, and someone comes in and says, hey, I want to change and I want to do residential here, that's a decision that the city still gets to make. You know, we don't have to apply it in a certain way. You know, we can do it as long as it's consistent with our comp plan. We can say, yeah, we think it needs to be in this direction. And if you justify it with the fact that you've changed that sub-area map to be included in this direction, I think that's your justification that it could happen that way. So.
And I misspoke. I meant to say general urban is what we're.
I knew what you meant.
Not industrial.
Other comments or feedback, questions? All right, let's see you none. We'll see you back in a couple weeks. Thank you. Item 6, I should have mentioned this at the beginning of the meeting, Trent Park deferred today, so that's not on the agenda. My apologies if you're here and sat through that long to get to that one, but Trent Park is not.
And it will not be on the voting meeting this month,
Yeah, it will not be on the voting meeting next month. They've just deferred it. So,
November.
okay, so that takes us to item 7, GDE substation rebuild, a site plan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jim Carpenter, staff planner. The owner applicant requests approval of a site plan for GDE substation rebuild on 7.32 acres, zoned R40, low density residential, located at 255 Nichols Lane. So it's a little bit easier to see from this angle, but they are expanding to the south along Woods Ferry Road, preparing with a gravel base to expand when it comes time. Other than that, they're pretty minimal details for that. They are showing a fence, calling out that it will be vinyl coated. And then since this is a public project, there doesn't have to be a variance for the barbed wire. Outside of that, staff has mostly minor comments on this item.
Thank you. Do you have a representative for the applicant?
Brandon Hessen, Gallatin Department of Electricity, 135 Jones Street, Gallatin. We had no additional comments, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Where do you get more power?
This will get more power to the south side as well as improve existing infrastructure, so.
Right. All right, and staff's comments are fairly minor, no issues getting everything worked out. All right, well, we need more power on this side of town, so looking
Thank you
forward
much,
to
we'll
it.
do our best.
All right,
Appreciate
thank you,
it.
sir. All right, item 8, Lowe's of Gallatin Outdoor Sales Display Plan, revised final master development plan.
Good evening, Commissioners. The owner and applicant request approval of a revised final master development plan for Lowe's of Gallatin Outdoor Sales Storage Display Area on 14.80 acres, Zone PGC, Planned General Commercial District, located at 1301 Nashville Pike. You can see here, maybe a little difficult to see, but they have a hatched area from the 2004 FMDP that shows storage basically up against the store, here on the side as well, and then some here in the parking lot. Moving forward to 2020, they had a tool rental feature added, and they have some storage here, and I believe here in the back as well. And then it brings us to current, where these areas here, 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 and along here have been added for outdoor storage, box trucks, tractor trailers with stock in them, things like that. And I believe an applicant is here today to comment on this.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a representative for applicant?
Good evening. My name is Todd Bartok. I'm with Lowe's Improvement Warehouse, 1000 Lowe's Boulevard, Mooresville, North Carolina, 28117. And yes, we are asking for additional storage of material. So if there's questions that I can answer that might help, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I frequent this particular Lowe's store multiple times a week, so I'm very familiar with it. And I will say, I've noticed over the years, the outdoor display area just continues to creep and get bigger and bigger and more. And quite frankly, it doesn't look real good. So I guess my question to you guys is, there's clearly other municipalities where you have stores that have outdoor storage that's screened, that's, aesthetically looks pretty good. Is that possible to take some of those practices that have been done elsewhere and implement that here in Gallatin?
We've done quite a few. We have 1,700 stores throughout the U.S., and we do run into this issue where we need to do some screening. It is entirely up to planning and zoning as to what that screening may be. We would love to be able to do the temporary fencing like we're doing in that existing area that was approved before. If that's satisfactory, it becomes difficult where, can I borrow that real quick? Sure. Sorry.
That top one, I'll give you the pointer.
Great, thank you. So in this area here, we have our tool rental area. And then what we have here is permanent storage would be bag goods and block and that is too heavy to lift to steal kind of thing. And then lumber and block and stone across the back of the store here.
But I brought up with staff on our call, just getting ready for the meeting earlier, was to try to take a look at some stores that have some outdoor storage that maybe is a little more desirable. So maybe over the next couple of weeks, we can try to get you something that, you know, is an example of what I'm talking about. I didn't have time today to really put a lot of work into it, but.
So are you talking more solid wood fence wall screening, or?
I don't have a particular thought at this point on it, other than just, I think there's a way to make it aesthetically look better, just, you know, for something that was intended to be a parking lot that's now just becoming more and more of a storage area. But I don't have anything specific on my mind at this point, so I think that's just something we'll have to take a look at.
Right, and we are asking for temporary storage in the front up there by the garden center, some additional, because we are doing a massive amount of mulch during the spring months, is what that's primarily for. So with that, we just don't have the facility here to put more storage. You know, typically we have a bullpen in the back of the store where we can put material that needs to be brought out, you know, and we just don't have it here. We're on a much smaller site, so that's why it looks like it's a little overflowing in some areas more than you would at a store that has, you know, 18 acres or, you know, something with 600 parking spaces in the field.
I mean, y'all gonna build a bigger store?
Do you want us to close this one down and build a bigger store?
No,
I didn't think so.
No, I mean, you know.
I don't want to do that either.
You can open a bigger one and then close this one.
You know, it's funny, we are building the same size store even today. It's more of a, you know, what's inside the store stays inside the store. It's the mulch and the brick and the block and that heavy-duty stuff that's out there, you know, 16-foot-long timber. So it's hard to build a building 200,000 square feet and make it pencil.
I understand that. Any other feedback or comments?
I guess a question for staff. With the additional storage, does it impact parking in parking lots? Or parking spaces?
It obviously takes up parking spaces.
But still compliant?
Is placed right within the parking lot. So what they've got, I mean, they've got tool rental areas, they've got sheds, they've got mulch, they've got tractor trailers that hold your straw for when you're seeding and strawing. Multiple rows of the mulch when that rolls in the springtime. I mean, it covered the whole back row of that parking area. So yes, it does impact the parking. And frankly, I mean, again, it doesn't look aesthetically pleasing at all to have all that stuff out in the parking lot. They did get some areas, as was mentioned in the beginning, that were approved in the beginning when the site plan was approved. This area right here that's shaded in dark, that was approved for exterior storage. So they are allowed to place items in that area. They also have any of the areas all along the front of the store here, pretty much as display area for items that they use. And then right here, where this arrow points to, there's a small area that was designated when they got their site plan approval for their tool rental. So we realize that's a small area and they do have some big equipment, but we suggested that they use this area back here, just right along the side of the building for those larger pieces of equipment and not have them sticking out in the parking lot where they're wide out in the front. We realize there's a lot of stuff, and so we're open to suggestions that they can make to, you know, potentially use this area, screen it off, make it not accessible or something like that, and store, build some tall shelves or something like that so they can use their space sufficiently, but out in the front in the parking lot area, does not seem to me like the right area for storing all those things.
On the southern end, where the building supply area is now, is that being utilized?
Let me get orientated here.
Where the bank is?
Along the backside of the
See the
building?
backside, yes. It is not up against that curb, but currently it's more up against that, the building area.
Yeah, that,
We-
I'm
Sorry.
sorry, go ahead.
What we're trying to do is get it up against the curb so that we leave that fire lane for the fire department.
Adjacent to the building, not in the parking lot?
The rear storage,
Yeah. I'm talking where your building area is now, lumber,
oh, the lumber canopy.
yeah, on the other side of the lumber canopy.
Oh, I can answer that one. Yes, it's being utilized.
Yeah. Seems like everywhere out there is being utilized.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a small site.
Yeah.
For us. And our business has grown, the model has moved. Springtime is a huge financial impact to obviously help the city out and, helps us out too. We're in the business to sell stuff. That's what we do.
And our code enforcement officer has taken several pictures out there, and we can provide a little bit better of a visual for you all to help you see what is going on back there. One other thing I want to point out is back in the back here, there's a whole new condo development that's supposed to be going in back there. So trying to store a bunch of equipment along the backside of that store is going to make it pretty unesthetically pleasing for anybody, looking at that backside there. And yes, there is, I think, a small tree line, but it's going to be thin enough, especially during the winter time, that you would see right through it and you'd see all that stuff packed out.
And there's a significant grade change back there. That, I was going to say that I think where the elevation for where those condos are going is higher than the top of the store. Yeah, if you know what I mean? It's like, so probably less concerned about that. I guess just some final feedback as I've been sitting here thinking through it. And, as Brian was talking about it, I guess if I'm, the goal tonight is to give you some direction. It's not to make the decisions. So if I just threw out the equipment rental lined up where it is, to me, doesn't bother me personally. Okay? On we'll go left-hand side, we already had the approval for the outdoor storage for the landscape stuff. That makes sense for it to be over there. But maybe what you need to look at is you've got storage buildings, trailers, all those other things that are over there. And you may need, maybe the thing is to look at which one makes the least amount of money and restrict that back for your bagged mulches and those big things and get it all in one area so it's not dispersed all throughout the site. I think that would help a lot. So, but if you could try to consolidate it more to that one side for your seasonal stuff where you need the extra storage, that might be an easier conversation to have. Again, it's personal, one person, the equipment rental storage there, it kind of makes sense because you're backing trailers up to it to hook up to the skid steer somebody's renting and those types of things. I get that. I think what I find visually, turned off. I mean, I'm just personally, like I say, I go to the store a couple times a week, and there are times I go in there and it just doesn't look good. And so, but I think it's, maybe you can take a look at, can you consolidate some of these things from the garden center and the seasonal stuff more towards that, plan left side, but it may mean you have to take a trade-off on some of the other things you've got in those areas. So that'd be kind of my feedback.
So if I may, just
Sure.
as a comment, typically in a store like this where we would have that issue and that situation going on, we would expand that garden center and push the fence all the way out to the outer edge of that parking. And, that would solve everybody's problem because we would screen it just like we do everything else.
But there's no room to put it.
But then you've blocked the fire access. So we're stuck between a rock and a hard spot.
I know that there's the still vacant lot to the right of the store, have you all had any thoughts about approaching that landowner for some future expansion out there? But there's a couple of acres sitting there.
There's a lot of grade difference right there. There's $1 million worth of grading in that.
It is, most of what's in there is actually fill from where they've done the condos behind it. So there's, I think, what, five plus feet of fill that they've recently placed on that?
It would have to be removed.
Oh, it would be. I'm just, throwing out real estate
If I can't
ideas.
get a garden center approved through our financial partners, how can I get, a couple acres of land with $1 million worth of hauling off of dirt?
I get it. I didn't say it was a great idea, I just said it's an idea.
It was it was a pretty good idea.
Yeah, so, but, all right. Any other comments? I mean,
We're looking for direction.
Yeah.
My fiduciary responsibility is to get this approved so that we can, do business in the spring and put the merchandise in there that we need to. I'm looking for direction as to, what kind of screening are we looking for? I mean, we could throw 1,000,001 ideas. You can go on the internet and if it's not going to satisfy who's going to make that decision, then we're just wasting our time. And we want to put our best foot forward here.
Well,
If y'all could help us out, we would truly appreciate it.
well, I think, my comments about consolidating the bag storage and all to the one area, I'm not even about adding screening on that. Just getting it organized to where it's not spread out throughout the whole property. Because I understand the seasonal part. I mean, the pallets of mulch and all that stuff, it's not there all year. It's your heavy spring as you transition into it. But
Yeah, the issue we have is that we already have approval for those areas up there in that area.
right, but you have approval for that, but you've taken a lot of liberty using a lot of property that you don't have approval for.
Yes, sir.
So we could also just as easily say, make it all disappear unless it's right there.
Yes, sir, you can.
So, and I don't want to do that.
I'm looking for ways to find how you want me to screen it, to make it less unappealing. Because this is how Lowe's does, this is how we do business, unfortunately.
I understand.
What about a consideration for a storage area here? There's quite a grade change. The road is elevated here. There's a lot of screening along the top.
Yeah, you've got that retaining wall and you get the grade change there.
So in this area, consolidating it, would that be possible?
It could be, sorry I overspeak, but it's a challenge because that's the area that your contractors go in out with the trailers, getting it in a lumber. So if you start taking up chunks of that parking lot, it actually would cause them a problem, but just mine.
Well, actually, we have pro sales on lumber side.
Yep.
And then we've got garden center sales on the other side. So we try and keep them as far apart as possible. The whole springtime where you buy 5 bags of mulch for $10, and then you drive up there and our employees load it for you. That's our, quick serve that goes through there. So we want to have it there to be able to pull stock from that left-hand side of the building out into that parking area. So we're looking at 2 different things. Obviously, we're putting it wherever we can, and I know the pictures that are there right now. I can't dictate when the mulch comes. Those are people far above my pay grade. So all I can say is you can't do it. I can't say you can do it, but you can only do it through 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock. That's the kind of thing where truck services and the deliveries and all that stuff, it's a nightmare. Like I said, way above my pay grade, so.
Have any thoughts that are more specific?
I'll just say, I think it's the applicant's responsibility to propose what solutions they are. I mean, I don't think it's the planning commission's job to determine, hey, what are the right solutions here? I think they're supposed to provide those solutions to us, and we say whether we like them or not. I mean, to me, that's appropriate.
And this is our solution.
And if this is what you want to move forward with, I mean, I think, I've given you some feedback on some ideas to make it consolidated, or if you choose not to take any of that into account and come back with this, that's your discretion.
Understood. We appreciate that. And I wasn't being flippant or,
Oh,
I wasn't trying to say you guys make the decision for us, but
I understand.
like I said, there's,
I completely understand, and, you know, in my past life, one of my first jobs, I was a vendor rep manager into Lowe's stores for your hardscape goods.
Okay.
So I'm very familiar with the outside store stock and coming up with ways to work around cities to make it all show up. So I did that 20 years ago. So I got a little bit of experience in the conversation we're having. So, but yeah. So anybody else have any feedback? Okay. Look, thanks for
all
coming.
right, thank you. Appreciate it.
We'll see you back in a few weeks.
Yep, thanks.
Make sure I'm on the right one. All right, item 9, gun subdivision 513 at 517 Nichols Lane. Hopefully I read that right. I left my glasses at home.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The owner and applicant request approval of a final plat for the gun subdivision for 4 lots on 7.69 acres zoned R20 low-density residential district located east of Block 4 and south of Nichols Lane. So it's a little bit easier to explain this way. So this lot already exists. This is currently 1 lot, and then this is a separate parcel that was created at some point, I want to say maybe in the 90s, which is under 5 acres and is landlocked currently. So the applicant proposes to create basically this 1 lot with this access easement kind of going between 1 and 2, and then curving through to their current driveway to serve as the access for 3 and 4. So kind of from here, going through the middle, and then serving these 2 parcels. This parcel and then the created lot. All lots are consistent with the minimum lot sizes for the zoning and all of that. However, staff has significant concerns with access for all of this. Kind of starting would be kind of managing this access along Nichols in this current proposal is difficult at best. And technically, it's an access easement serving 3 lots, which is not allowed under our current subdivision regulations. The kind of more complicating factor is the 3 driveways that you have here. So you've got 1, 2, 3, which will all be impacted by this roundabout, which is coming as part of the improvements for the banks at Block 4 subdivision, and managing access for all of these properties kind of in relation and in sort of conversation with this improvement. So outside of this, staff had mostly minor comments outside of the name. They'll have to have a different name. There already is a Gallatin subdivision. But Nick, I'll kind of let you take over and talk through kind of the roundabout's implication for this and kind of where we would want to go from there.
Thanks, Jim. So what Jim has on the screen, I don't know if you can see it. Well, I don't know if it even says, but this is a proposal from the Banks subdivision. If you recall, when the Banks subdivision came through, they had several off-site improvements they were going to do, and this is one of those off-site improvements. As long as the construction is feasible, this is the preference, and this is what we're pushing the Banks developer to construct when that time comes. Now, it's still probably several years away. I think this was probably at like lot 500 or something like that. I don't remember exactly, but so we're probably still 5 years away from them actually getting started on this. But at some point in the future, this is what our expectation is. Now, if construction is not feasible, they are able to kind of drop back to an always stop condition, which is obviously not going to be as great of a level of service as the roundabout would be. So our preference is the roundabout. And you can see that actually one of the driveways on, I believe it's lot 2, the one that's in the corner of the subdivision at the corner of Lot 4 Road and Nichols Lane. Yes, Nichols Lane, right. It has the circle drive, and the drive that comes out to the right-hand side would be in conflict with one of the splitter islands of the roundabout. So it's likely going to be an issue at some point when we get to that. But looking at what we've got in front of us, the challenge is the driveways that they have on Nichols Lane are currently spaced at the minimum, the absolute minimum. So you have a driveway on lot number 2, a driveway on lot number 1 that are 185 feet apart, and you're at the intersection of 2 collector roadways. I'm not sure if they are proposing to add a 3rd driveway right in the middle of those 2, or if they want to combine all 3 of those driveways to become one. Our preference, if they can come up with a way to create either the frontage or whatever to combine all 3 of those that are on Nichols Lane, the one proposed and the 2 existing, to one, that would be a suitable solution. But as far as we can tell, the only way that they could do that is to actually create what we would call a private street. So a private right-of-way with a private street, so that they have 3 and even 4 of the properties could all access through that private street. But the way they have it set up now, I think they have the access set up so that it could be legal. The problem is the spacing of the driveways. And so if we change the spacing of the driveways, then they're probably going to get into the situation where the subdivision is not legal. So we just got a little bit of a back and forth. So I'm not sure if, I don't know if they've received our comments yet. Probably. Okay, so I don't know if they have a thoughts or solution. It was a little bit unclear as to lots 3 and 4 at the back. I think that one of 3 and 4 is a flagpole that goes out to the right-of-way, and then the other of 3 and 4 is the easement that sits on top of the flagpole, if that makes sense. If that description doesn't make sense, I'll try to explain it another way, but that's the easiest way I know how to explain it. And so lot 1 is not part of the flagpole, although it kind of looks like it the way that it's drawn. So it's a little bit difficult to make out with the line work and the line weights that they have in there, but maybe the applicant can go a little bit further into detail. But I'll stop, pause, and either turn it over for questions, or you can ask the applicant.
Certainly. We'll hear from the applicant.
Dakota Beasley, Greenland Design. Nick, you are correct. I can't tell. The most southeastern lot is a flag lot at the moment. That's how we have it drawn. We can get that cleaned up with the line weight. I can see it doesn't look like it necessarily printed correctly. Now, with that being said, the 2 lots on the, I guess that's the northwestern side, are only included in this plat technically to allow for the 50-foot access easement. With the side yard setbacks on lot 1, we have to get into lot 2 and lot 3 just ever so slightly to allow for the full 50-foot width. You can probably see the little breaks in there. Other than that, that's the only reason those are in there. The idea with the access, like we said, the southeastern lot, I'm going to assume that's lot 3? Yes. Okay. It is the flagpole lot with the 50-foot frontage along, what is that, Nichols, with an access easement coming off of the existing drive on lot 1. So the intent behind this is for lot 1, 3, and 4 to all come off of lot 1's drive. Existing? Yes. Then happy to answer any more questions, because I know that probably wasn't explained.
Believe it or not, I actually understood what you meant. Okay, so essentially, you have an existing driveway that accesses a single property today, and it would be modified to accommodate three. Okay. How does that work in an easement from a regulations standpoint, that you got three properties using the same easement? Does it need to be a private street to accommodate that?
Right.
Be compliant?
The problem with bringing 3 and 4 across the front of one is that you now have 2 lots going through one 50-foot easement, and our regulations only allow 1 lot to be accessed through an easement.
Each one needs its own 50-foot of road
correct.
frontage easement.
My understanding was that they can share that, but the easement would have to be turned into a city standard street. I mean, it would have to be a 50-foot right-of-way with concrete curbs and everything built to city standards, wouldn't it? And then it could serve 3 lots?
If they make it a private street, then the regulations are much more loose. Obviously, it would need to have fire access code that it would meet, but we wouldn't require it to be a public street.
Oh,
So
okay.
All right, so the path forward for this sounds like it needs to be a private road. The way they've got it laid out.
that's an acceptable solution. We think that that is one way to accomplish this. There may be other ways.
Just looking at the map, how can you possibly get a 50-foot swath carved in there and still have your setbacks from your existing buildings? Does it work?
Works.
Yeah, they have it drawn, and that's what he was explaining. Between lots 1 and 2, they had to kind of bend a little bit into lot number 2. It's probably hard to see on your screen at the scale that it is. I don't know if you can zoom in, but the 2 existing buildings on lot number 1 push the 50-foot width into lot number 2, and so they have to create a new boundary between 1 and 2 that has some breaks in it to allow for the 50-foot to happen. But they do have enough space between the structures on lot 1 and lot 2 to get a 50-foot path through there.
I guess maybe I'm confused a little bit, but the driveway that's on lot 1 currently is not in the easement being created, so it's going to be the same driveway modified through there, or are we relocating the driveway?
The entrance off of Nichols will stay the same. Obviously, there'll have to be a fork right after you get onto the
Okay.
property that shoots over and then back.
It would use the existing connection, and it would come through that 50, I see the 50 easement. I finally zoomed in enough that I can see it. Okay, I'm with you now. That's how you're getting there. Okay. So I guess my feedback would be, it needs to be compliant. So it sounds like a path to get there would be a private street.
We're happy to work with staff and engineering to do whatever we need to do.
Anybody else have any feedback or questions? No. Everybody's nice and quiet tonight. All right, thanks. We'll see you back in a couple weeks.
Thank you.
You guys want to do all these nexuses individually or do them all as one?
Thank you for asking. I anticipated that.
All right.
Not to discount that there's a lot of work that goes behind each section, but I can simplify this.
Okay, so we're going to do items 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14
Yes.
at the same time, all Nexus preliminary plats, right? Okay, for different sections. Thank you for combining.
This is the Nexus 10. It's Phase 3 South, Section 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. It's located south of West Albert Gallatin Avenue and east of Highway 109. It's zoned R8 PRD. Section 1 has 60 single-family lots. Section 2, which I've outlined each one of them. Section 2 is 29. Section 3 is 51 single-family lots. Section 4 is 49 single-family lots. And Section 5 is 50 single-family lots, a total of 239 single-family lots. There are some corrections that need to be done, but overall, there's no concerns. They're all obtainable.
Okay, we have a representative for the applicant.
Good evening, Brad Snyder with CSDG. All the comments are pretty simple, so.
Mainly just clean up stuff. Okay. All right. Thank you for keeping that many items easy. Anybody have any other questions? All right, we'll see you back. Thank you, sir. That'll move us to item 15, Oak Hill Phase 4 preliminary plat.
Good evening, Commissioners. Charlie Peary, Staff Planner. The owner and applicant request approval of a preliminary plat for Oak Hill Phase 4, consisting of 117 lots on 117.5 acres, located south of East Broadway and west of Roundtree Drive. So Planning Department staff had quite a few comments on this particular item. I'll try to keep them short for you guys. There is some missing R20 residential zoning information on this plat for the lots that are on the eastern side of this development and are also on this plat. We'll need that setback information, bulk information, and landscaping stuff to be put on the cover sheet. Moving into the development as a whole, there is quite a few lots that are within several of the streams that are on the piece of property and even encroaching into the stream buffers. So practically everyone that has a stream buffer on them will have to be removed. And then lastly, we would like to have a little bit more detail given to the other pages of this plat. We'd like to have the lot lines at least darkened a little bit so they're more visible. Maybe have the contours faded a little bit so the plat is easier to read. And then we also would like to have the contour lines cut back to the distance of every 5 feet instead of every foot that is on this. And then the engineering division has several discrepancies with this plat in particular and the ECP, and I can turn that part over to Nick.
I think the main difference, the summary for us is, I don't know if you can flip back to the overall screen there. Yeah. So the street that connects along the southern edge here, or it's probably more the eastern edge, didn't go all the way, didn't connect. There was a break in it, cul-de-sac, from some of the previous submittals that we've had and what they've submitted this time, that the engineering construction plans don't match this. I think that they are moving towards this, and this is the direction they want to go, but they haven't resubmitted that to us. So, and we typically expect, or what we do expect, is the engineering construction plans that are submitted with the preliminary plat match. So the other thing to point out is at several times throughout this process, we've had an emergency access that does connect back into the industrial center at the cul-de-sac end of Commerce Way. And they have removed that with this plat. Currently, it's shown on the ECP that is submitted, but again, it's not the same layout. So just some little bit of confusion. From the pre-app that we had with this, we understand that this is the direction they're going, but just don't have what we need to actually do a full review on it.
Thanks, Nick. Do you have a representative for the applicant?
Zach Elliott, Green Lid. Happy to answer questions on this. Couple pieces. Sorry, go ahead. You may have anything. You want me to go ahead and address what he was talking about?
Yeah, I mean, I think let's talk about it, because I mean, you're here with the final plat that doesn't match the ECP. So
yes,
are you just a little too early, or can you get this?
Well, so timeline-wise, and then I did explain this in our pre-app, is those stream buffers came in to us in between when we submitted the construction documents for the ECP review, and we knew roughly where they were going to sit, but we didn't have any HD done. So the HD hydrologic determination happened, and so the line work you see there is still actually an approximation. We sent out a surveyor who is wrapping those up this week. We're going to have those the actual true tops of banks of these streams actually, geolocated in the plan we submit. And I've got the comments printed here. So we are hustling to get these done this week. I think we just wanted to understand if we submit a new construction plan set to you guys and new calcs and everything that show this configuration of lots, with that gap bridged there across before that it was cut open. I'm trying to see what lot numbers those would be, but sort of there along the southeast, midway along that southeast property, yeah, about there, where those are some new lots that, yes, we took out the 2 cul-de-sacs and bridged the gap. Part of that was also not just because of the stream buffers and wanting to then get back a few more lots. It was also about, traffic flow through the subdivision. The fact that technically the two ends there are both called Ironwood Circle, and currently they sit unconnected. The end up there in phase 2, which is that top right corner, and then the road that's coming in at the top left corner are both called Ironwood Circle out there currently. So logically, they needed to connect as one unified road. And so that was part of our adjustment here.
Yeah,
So
this is a better layout.
It is definitely, yes. And I think I want to just get a sense of if we resubmit construction plans concomitantly with this plat, or if we submit them before the plat resubmittal for this review, are you guys, is there any way we could go ahead and get a sense of the comments you have on what you've already seen, or would you prefer to review a new plan entirely? Because it would be, we would appreciate, if you've already reviewed it, to get back a review before we submit a second round. Yes, we'll have some modifications, but, there's some degree of modification to be expected as the project progresses to an extent. But I get, this is significant changes,
Yeah, I'm going to leave that for Nick to answer
Amongst
from
ourselves,
engineering,
yeah.
because I think it's outside of the scope of what the commission can weigh in on, quite frankly.
As far as the actual plat comments, we are fully on board and agree. I think, and I do want to apologize for missing the bulk table there. That was an oversight on our part, so we will get that revised to show R20 along. That's just for the lots along that southeast, north. What am I trying to say? Northeast to southwest.
Okay.
So we will denote those on the plan and make it clear which are R15, R20. I will say those are drawn, the ones that need to be R20 are drawn to R20. They are appropriately sized. They're minimum 20,000 square feet frontage.
I think from a feedback standpoint, the feedback I can give you is it's an improved layout for sure. I think you just need to get with engineering and staff just to determine if you can get a level of information and corrections done in a timely fashion where they have time to properly review it before it comes back.
Right. And so timeline-wise, you want to see which drives which. I would think the plat is dictating what goes in the construction plans, right? Or are they supposed to, I know they're supposed to talk to each other, but when you're saying you don't like that we submitted a construction plan first and then changed it via the plat, I'm just.
Typically, you do your FMDP, your construction plans, and a final plat that all matches it, right?
It's straight zoned, so there's no master plan.
Gotcha.
That's
Okay.
what makes it more complicated.
Gotcha.
Yeah, they had a sketch plat, which is about the only subdivision that we have with a sketch plat these days. Just to give a short response, we're working on the comments, but we do need these to match. Typically, you submit the construction plans and the preliminary plat at the same time, which you did. They just don't match. So we'll give you comments, but
If we send you a new plan, can it be, and we can discuss.
yes, as a response to our comments.
But we agree regarding the plat, everything on here makes perfect sense to me.
Fortunately, tonight, we're just here to give guidance and throw some of these talks out, so anything else to provide? All right, I think you got some work to do. All right, thanks, we'll see you back in a few weeks. Item 16, Caldwell Place amended preliminary master development plan and revised final master development plan.
Brad Hickman, staff planner. The owner and applicant request approval of an amended preliminary master development plan and revised final master development plan for Caldwell Place to adjust lot lines within available open space for front porches on 18.3 acres zoned MRO, multiple residential and office district located south of Nashville Pike and east of Cage's Bend. Primarily, like it says in the description, they're making the lots a little longer by a few feet so they can get bigger front porches on them. Other than that, it was mainly some cleanup, some labeling were our comments. We did take this opportunity to meet with fire and their concerns with accessibility for emergency vehicles. And we have sent, it was a late comments due to scheduling, but we did send some comments about fire signs and 15 feet of curb on each side of the fire hydrant to be marked with paint.
We have a representative for the applicant.
Luke Talley with CSDG, and we've had some discussion with staff already of engineering and talked through some of the comments, but and generally in agreement with everything, so happy to answer any questions.
Do you have any questions? Yeah, I didn't have any concerns with what I saw with the changes. I think if anything, are all improvements. So. All right. All right, well, we'll see you back in a couple weeks.
Thanks.
All right, thanks, Luke. Got Caldwell Place final plat.
The owner and applicant request approval of a final plat for Caldwell Place consisting of 120 townhomes on 18.3 acres, zoned MRO, multiple residential and office district, located south of Nashville Pike and east of Cage's Bend Road. Mostly similar to the FMDP, a lot of cleanup and labeling was requested. They don't have addresses yet, but 911 has assigned them.
All right, and we'll hear from the applicant again.
Luke Talley again. Consistent comments across both submittals, so we're, yeah, no questions on those, and happy to answer any you might have.
This is about as straightforward as you can get, so I don't have any questions. Anybody else? All right, seeing none, we'll see you back. Thanks for your time tonight.
Thanks.
Okay, item 18, Ashley's Place Parking Lot Addition, Final Master Development Plan.
The owner and applicant request approval of a final master development plan for Ashley's Place for a parking lot addition on .94 plus or minus acres, zoned as MRO, multiple residential and office district, located south of West Smith Street and west of Cemetery Avenue. Staff had some minor cleanup comments. One to show the overhead electric that is parallel to, I think that is Smith Street, if I'm not mistaken, to change the label on the sidewalk here to be an ADA access, consistent with what is over here. And then to just call out the floodplain or flood zone that is over here, like what type it is. And then lastly, just having the perimeter landscape that's around the proposed additional parking as required by code. Thanks.
All right, thanks, Charlie. Do you have a representative for the applicant? Anybody here for Ashley's Place? Seeing nobody. Charlie, any major concerns or anything we need to talk about with this?
We're drawing it.
All right, well,
So
All right, well, then I have a whole list of questions.
hit us with what you got.
No, this is a great thing in Gallatin, and it's needed, so. All right, well, seeing none, we'll see it back in a couple weeks. Look forward to engineering's drawings. So, all right, item 19 is Monday Anthony Street Development, final master development plan.
The owner and applicant requests approval of a final master development plan for Monday Anthony Street, consisting of 3 single-family homes on a .21 acre lot zoned as MU Mixed Use District, located south of DeMoss Street and west of Anthony Street. Staff had minor comments.
All right, and we have a representative for the applicant.
I'll point out, I don't know that our comments were minor. I guess they're minor in nature, but I think they would have a great effect on this layout. And that's the fact that there's a minimum 5-foot grass strip required between the sidewalk and the street that is shown. They're showing the sidewalk to be flush to Anthony and to DeMoss. And we would require at least 5 foot, but there is a roadside ditch along both of these streets. And so unless they're looking to add curb and gutter, stormwater features, or stormwater infrastructure, they need to maintain the roadside ditch. And so that means that minimum code required 5-foot grass strip is probably going to be more like 8 or more to make sure that the roadside ditch can be maintained. So again, it's not, a big comment when you see it on the paper, but to actually make it fit on this lot is, I think, going to be a challenge. So those are our comments: 5-foot grass strip, 5-foot sidewalk, and hopefully these guys have a brilliant solution to figure it out.
All right.
Yeah, Dakota Beasley, Greenlit Design. I agree with Nick.
So did you bring your magic wand?
I left it back at the office.
That's unfortunate.
We did review these comments this afternoon, and it's going to take some looking at and probably a little bit of site rework. It's something that we're willing to work with engineering on. We just have to get into it and see what all it's going to take. Happy to answer any questions anybody might have, though.
I think your biggest challenge is going to be figuring this sidewalk out, and look, the reason for the grass strip is just a safety issue, that you'll have a sidewalk right on top of a road. So hopefully you can figure something out.
Hope so.
You else have any feedback? So, all right, well, good luck. We'll see you back in a couple weeks.
Thank you.
All right. Other business? Anybody have any other business?
I sent you all an email this afternoon, but just reminder, TAPA conference is coming up. It's the October 20th to 22nd. Hopefully that email provides you just an easy way to respond back and say, yes, I'd like to go, or no, I can't go, rather than having to draft a whole new email yourself and send it. We would like to see, I think John is right now the only ones who's responded. I didn't send it to you because you've already responded, so everybody else got it, because I don't think we've gotten anybody else to say yes or no that they want to go. Do say no if you can't go, so that way we know for sure if you are or are not able to go. But price is the same for if you are there all 3 days or if you're just there 1 day. So it really doesn't matter, but we do need to know soon enough before they close the registration. So if y'all can take a few minutes and look at your calendars and see if that can be accommodated.
I don't see the dates in the email, so just remind me what they are again.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's October 20th to the 22nd.
Okay.
What's the deadline registration, do you know?
I don't know it yet. It may only be a couple days before the conference, but just want to make sure we do get you in time.
All right, I'll let you know something tomorrow.
And then also just a quick update on Zoco. We do hopefully anticipate receiving our final draft back here this month. So we'll be looking forward to starting up a process for review of that once Jillian and I will do a check first on making sure that it looks good and if we need to have them make any tweaks to it. But we're hoping by beginning in November, we can start into our review process and get this thing moving. So, yeah, we're excited. And that's it for other business.
All right. Announcements? I see Jim at the podium.
I guess it's announcements. CDBG, we have a second public hearing next Tuesday night from 5 to 6 before City Council. 2 public hearings are required as part of the process. We've been working hard with our HUD reps who have been doing a good job. We've been trying to get data from them since May, which is why the draft plans are scarce, and I apologize for that. But we have a draft citizen participation plan that will be going to City Council very soon, and the draft 2025 to 2029 consolidated plan and 2025 annual action plan that are out for public comment. So feel free to provide feedback on either of those documents, and look forward to seeing you next week.
All right. Thanks, Jim. All right. Seeing no other business for adjournment, we'll be adjourned for tonight. Thanks, everybody, for the time.